Hi, my name is Lizzie Philibin, and today I will be discussing brand communities. So, what is a brand community exactly? And the definition that I think it is and what I researched was it's a community formed on the basis of attachment to a product, stressing the connection between the brand and the individual identity and their culture. Now, from here, this shared connection between a brand and individual is important because the more loyalty a customer has for the company, the more likely the consumer continues to come back to that company. So, say for example, a podcast, if the person enjoys the content that the podcaster puts out, they are more likely to return and listen to their episode next week. And if you like the podcaster you're listening to, like it's a real person that you hear and you get connected. So there's another form of loyalty, like personal connection. And anyways, from there, the larger your brand will go. So it's kind of like a 3-step process. Like you connect and make loyalty with your consumers, and then you put out content or products that they will enjoy and that's of good quality so that they will return to you. And then from there your brand will grow in the community that your brand is in. So a company that I think embodies like what I've just said and the brand community mindset is Barstool. Now they have all kinds of content from like podcasts to merchandise, a ton of things. But what I find very unique and awesome about them is that they can target all kinds of different brand communities, all different kinds of markets, all different kinds of people. And I think that that's truly amazing. So here I have 3 podcasts that, although are all through Barstool, are all very different and have unique listeners or brand communities. So we got up here, we have Barstool Radio, which is by Dave Portly, and it's just kind of your rundown on sports, his opinion on things. Obviously more geared towards guys, but girls of course can listen to. And then these 2 I actually listen to are more geared towards women, and there's actually one that I want to talk about in more detail because I feel that they have such a strong brand community, and it's kind of amazing and awesome what they're able to do with just their podcast. So that would be the Call Her Daddy podcast. So for like a brief background on what Call Her Daddy is, it's a sex podcast with like a comedic spin on things. It's kind of like a pop culture podcast. And what I think is really awesome about them is that, like we have discussed in our class before, is like levels of involvement. You have over here, you have the interested levels, like I'll listen to a podcast every once in a while, like haha, they're funny. And then over here you have like, I'm obsessed with them, like I count down till Wednesdays, that's when they put out their content. I can't wait, I have all of those sweatshirts and merchandise that they put out, like #DaddyGang, stuff like that. So backtracking a little on what I just said, I think that these girls capitalize on their fan base, and they have made a community of women that like share stories, give advice, like laugh and stuff. And they have capitalized on that and made merchandise. Like up here is a hoodie that they produced, and it says, I'm unwell, and that is one of the slogans that the girls often use in their podcasts. And also we have a shirt here that has a mugshot of one of the podcast producers. And people buy that. Anyways. And then this is a flag that says like on Wednesdays, or Wednesdays are for Call Her Daddy. And I think this is kind of like funny because one of the podcasts I showed you earlier, Barstool, with Dave Portly, he has like a flag that says like Saturdays are for the boys. So it's kind of like a play on that. Like, oh, you boys have your thing. Well, my brand community has this thing. So I think it's awesome that they can capitalize on the merch with these people. Maybe these people are suckers. I don't know. But also, if you're like a listener, they refer to you as like a daddy gang member. And they have blown this up, and these girls have said like, use hashtag like call her daddy with your posts and stuff like that. So if you look up like on Instagram, you go to hashtags and you do like hashtag daddy gang, you're most likely to see a bunch of like girls from their 20s to the 30 range, just because it makes them feel a part of something. Like people love to be a part of something, and that's what this brand community has done. Also, they have a 1.4 million following base on Instagram, and sometimes they take you like their listeners' content that hashtag their stuff daddy gang, and they post it on their page with the 1.4 million followers, which is like a great way to get your brand community like involved with each other and feeding off of each other and like seeing each other's posts. So it really is like a little community, and I think they have done a fantastic job of making their listeners feel connected to them and each other. And they have just created a very loyal customer base that tunes in every Wednesday for another episode. Problems for brand communities. You can have problems like I put on here, negative associations. And I actually am going to tie this into a Call Her Daddy example. There used to be 2 girls on the podcast, but now there's only one because their one like opinion leader, one of the girls that ran it, she was kind of, her ethics were kind of off, and she was doing some shady, unprofessional things. Maybe that's why she has a mugshot and picture, and they sell that as merch. But anyways, she was doing some unethical business practices and trying to like cheat Barstool, which is the company that she's involved with. And so they kicked her off. And like, it can be negative when you have an opinion leader who's kind of in charge of the show, like being disloyal to its own company. So when they kicked her off, like now they have that negative connection with this girl named Sophia Franklin. And that just kind of gives them a bad rep, like, oh, they're kind of shady characters. So, but that is true for all kinds of brands. Like, you don't want to be associated with a shady character. That makes you look bad. So that's one negative thing that can come from brand communities, is like who's involved in your brand and if they are a good role model or leader for the brand that you're trying to create. So you can also have people that are like that make anti-brand comments that kind of say stuff that just like, no, or they post negatively, like they like start rumors or like use a lot of profanity on your posts, or just like talk about how bad your content is and how like, I don't know, anything along those lines. Like those, it can hurt your reputation by what others think of you. So you have to try and like weed that out. And if there is a problem, like try and address it and fix it. Because you can scare potential customers away. So those are negative aspects that come along with brand communities. So conclusion of all this would be a good brand communities are built on mutual loyalty from the producer and the consumer of this content. There are many different types of brand communities, and the community kind of depends on the content that you are putting out there or the products that you are putting out there. And then lastly, it's been stressed like all throughout my college career about the importance of connections and how you need to make connections. Well, that's true in this also. It just reiterates the importance of how to stay connected can turn into a brand community and can help you in the long run. That is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed.